Hi everyone, this vase is 3D printed, but it's not printed out of plastic, it's made from a printed porcelain. Because recently I got the chance to participate at the 3D printing ceramic workshop at our university, where I got introduced to this technology and where I made and printed this lamp. Take a look. Did you like what you've seen? Then join me in this adventure. You're watching Jan at work, and I'll show you how I made this lamp with the simple tools I have around. And furthermore, I also want to show you how you can make this lamp even without a 3D printer. So take a seat, relax, and enjoy. And what's actually the plan for the day? Today I want to build a new light fixture, and more precisely for our dining room, because honestly, I just didn't have enough lights at home. Or maybe I just needed an excuse to start a new DIY project. For inspiration, I took this designer lamp from the internet, which I really like, but there's only one tiny problem, and that's the price. So we are trying to recreate that lamp using only the simple tools I have around, and I also want to adapt the lamp to my style. And the ingredients for this are going to be a strong, heavy and sturdy base, where a wooden structure is going to be fixed to. And from this wooden structure, I'm going to hang those custom ceramic 3D printed lampshades. If there are no further questions left, then let's get to it. Let's start with the star of the show, the 3D printed ceramics. So, if you know FDM 3D printing, you recognize this process. It's like a tiny hot glue gun moving on a motorized gantry to build up an object layer by layer. Exactly like this video I generated with AI. Or maybe not exactly like that. I just love the sparks that are emitted during printing and the smoke that's coming from the lamp, probably from the internal combustion engine that generates the light, which would make quite a fun project, I have to say. So let's get back to our university workshop, where we got our hands on the VASP ceramic 3D printer. Setting up the machine meant taking apart the machine and filling up the tank with wet porcelain clay, which are formed into balls and slammed into the tank to eliminate air pockets in between. Afterwards, the tank got sealed and pressurized with air, pushing the wet porcelain clay towards the nozzle. There, an extrusion screw controls the output. And unlike plastic, the clay remains soft for much longer, which is both a challenge and also an advantage. Because on the one hand, you can create objects that can't be done in another method, and on the other hand, some prints are really unreliable and the results may be different every time. And that's what I really love about this technology. Although it's sometimes hard to predict, the models turn out beautifully and are all quite unique. But before we could even start printing, we had to make digital 3D models. I kept the lampshades quite small and cylindrical. My first model was quite straightforward, just seeing how thin the ceramic walls could get. For the second model, I tried a setting called fuzzy skin, which normally creates a rough finish for plastic prints. But with porcelain clay, this effect was quite wild, and the third model was even more adventurous. I designed strings that should fall down because they are printed into thin air without support. And everything worked at first try, of course. No, it didn't. So we had some air gaps in the tank which caused the material to stop extruding, which afterwards caused the entire print to collapse. And we also had some other material issues and so on, which I won't go into detail. But eventually we got some really nice lampshades out of it. And take a look at those. Just a sneak peek, because I'm evil and I also had to wait for them for 2 weeks. So I can't quite show them to you right now, but stay curious. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just finished editing this video, but yesterday I came across a really cool art installation about clay 3D printing. There was just an ordinary clay 3D printer, but in addition to that, there was also a camera that could detect those arm gestures like that. And with those arm gestures, you could change the position of the nozzle and change the print mid-print, which is actually pretty unique because usually you program 3D printers with 3D models and then they can't be changed afterwards or during the print. So this printer is interactive during the printing process, which I thought is a really cool idea, and I'm still thinking of any other projects where you can implement those ideas. And if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. I would be really interested. But let's continue with the video. After printing, the shades needed to cure for about a week. Skip this and the firing process will destroy the print. Eventually, we were able to fire the pieces in the oven. Careful handling was key here. Setting the correct starting temperature and firing temperature, and of course the timer. But Jan, what would happen if I didn't set the temperature right? We're going to fire these pieces at around 1000 degrees Celsius. And still at 1200 degrees, it's still going to be workable. Taking it up to 1400 degrees, the 3D prints are going to melt. But let's not stop there, because that's boring. Just imagine what would happen if we would turn it up way higher, for example 2000 degrees. The washing machine will start to melt and collapse into itself. And at 3000 degrees Celsius, the entire building will be already on fire and the floor inside is lava. Double that and we're approaching the sun's surface. Multiplying that by 10, well now, we've reached the Earth's core, dramatically changing the climate around. And lessons learned, always set the correct temperature when firing. While the ceramics were firing, it was time to make the lamp space. And I opted for concrete, thinking it would be easy to set up at home. And rather than a solid, immovable block, I made an outer mold and an inner mold to hollow it out and keep the weight manageable. The outer mold was pieced together from scrap wood for easy removal, while the inner mold stayed inside, wrapped with wire for reinforcement. And I also calculated the concrete I'm going to need. Of course, like every professional, I mixed the concrete in our basement and everything worked out flawlessly again. I completely underestimated the concrete I needed, thinking the mixing ratio would be like Breaking Bad, but it turns out you need much less water for the concrete. And furthermore, do you know why steel container ships float on water? Exactly the same way why my inner mold wanted to float, and the mold was pushed up. To fix this, I had to weigh down the mold and hope for the best. And after pouring, there's nothing left to do but to wait. And while the concrete space is setting in the basement, we can finally take a look at the ceramic 3D prints. And here they are. Take a look at those. And I can't wait seeing those hanging on the light fixture, because even the light passes through quite beautifully. Now it was time for the electrical work, which I won't show you into detail because we might get the same problem as before. Trust me, it's better that we move on to the wooden structure. I built it like a crane. There's a vertical wooden piece going from the base up to a horizontal piece of wood. Those are fixed together with a wooden dowel and a rope wrapped around several times that's tied to the base. From there, we are going to hang these light fixtures. But we can only do that after the concrete is finally ready. For the concrete base, I prepared a small wooden ring to go under the base to compensate the miscalculated amount of concrete. And now, finally, it's time to get back to the basement and unbox our new high-tech product. And surprisingly, The concrete block looks almost perfect like the cube. Something I didn't plan but was a happy accident. And now it's time for the final assembly. We carried the lamp base into our apartment and assembled everything together. First, I fixed the vertical wooden piece into the base, screwed and zip-tied everything together, and added enough hot glue to secure the rope inside. And it's quite a mess in there, but it's okay, nobody will see it. But you probably don't have to tell anybody about it, unlike I do now. While we assemble the lamp, you can think about this video. Do I like what I see here? Or what do I want to write in the comments? Or will I subscribe to this channel? Will I donate everything I'm just kidding, but thank you so much for watching this far into the video. I really appreciate that. Now with the assembly done, it's finally time for the moment of truth. Wire up everything and see if it works. I have to say, it turned out awesome, and I didn't imagine those 3D printed ceramics would look this great in person. And it's going to be hard to capture on camera, but I'll try my best. With that being said, I would be really interested in what you think about this. And I want to encourage you to try a project like this. Head to your local hardware store, see what materials are available, and imagine where the lamp could stand in your home. And then you could start making a plan how you could build something like that. And getting the materials, and I promise you, once you have the materials lying around, you'll want to get started, I promise. Having a bag of concrete lying in their apartment was actually a great motivator for me to get started. You're going to need to invest some time, but it will be worth it, because pieces like this you might have for a lifetime. And give it a shot. I'll show you quickly the first steps to get started and how you can make these lampshades in without a 3D printer. And these are the first steps. And you'll see these are actually pretty straightforward and not difficult at all. The entire build is actually not that difficult. But the first steps are usually the hardest. So I already pointed out the steps for you so you can follow along. Now, speaking of the lampshades, I'll link some great articles in the description how you can also make these lampshades at home. And to make these lampshades out of paper, you could, for example, use origami, and you could even use fabric, or skip the entire shade entirely and use good-looking, stylish LED balls, which also work really well and create a kind of relaxing atmosphere. So just get creative or find some household items you could use for a lampshade. And this video is just there to give you an inspiration. There's so much more possible with this project. Just start and see where it leads you. Future Jans here, and thank you so much for watching this video. This is actually my first video here on this channel, and I would really appreciate if you let me know what I could improve and what I could do differently for the next video. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you liked it and have a nice day. Love you.